Hey guys, so as mentioned in episode 1 of the new series, this is going to be a deck profile of the Phantom Knights deck that we're ultimately using here. So let's crack this open. I'm going to go through the main deck first and then show you the extra deck and just kind of give you some, well, give a breakdown of what exactly is kind of going on here. And hopefully you will have seen from the test hands that this deck actually does combo off quite majorly, so this should be good to show you what I'm kind of working with for now, and then obviously you can go back to episode 1 to kind of see the development routes we're looking at in the future. So to start off with, we've got our Phantom Knights of Torn Scales. Great card in many respects, but particularly for its graveyard recursion. So when another Phantom Knight card banishes from graveyard to get its effect off, Torn Scales can get resummoned from the grave. But otherwise, when it's on the field, you can discard a card from your hand and then send a Phantom Knights card from deck to grave. Really useful for getting either one of the traps like Break Sword in, so you can summon back another Phantom Knight from grave, or what I commonly use it for is getting our Ancient Cloak. So we play 3 copies of Torn Scales and 2 copies of Ancient Cloak. So Ancient Cloak, when it's sitting in the grave, like all Phantom Knights, it has the ability banish itself, and you get to add a Phantom Knights card from deck to hand. So most commonly I tend to go for Silent Boots on this one, but it can also be used for adding like Shade Brigandine and other Phantom Knight cards. But like I said, I most commonly go for either one of the 2 copies of the Silent Boots. So ultimately, this card is just really good. If you've got a Phantom Knight already on field, you can just special summon this directly from hand, and then when it's in the grave, it can banish itself to add a card. So most traditionally, I tend to go for the Fog Blade, just to set up for my opponent's turn, but that works really well, I find. But that does it for the Phantom Knight monsters in the deck, so we're now going to move on with the rest of the level 3 toolbox, starting off with the mini Burning Abyss core that I've got. So first off, we've got 2 copies of Graf, which if you don't know, when Graf is sent to the graveyard, he allows you to special summon a Burning Abyss monster from deck. Most commonly we go for Seer. When used in kind of conjunction with Cherubini, this makes for an easy rusty Bardish for going into the Link 3 play, and then when Seer is ultimately used for the Link summon, we actually can re-summon back the Cherubini from grave. We've then just got a very small 2-card Danger Package, which is Danger Jackalope and Tsukinoko. Great for discarding off of Torn Scales effect. That's most commonly what I've used it for, and then it ultimately just special summons either itself or Tsukinoko to the field in terms of Jackalope, so works really well. Then we run the 2-card Psychics, so we run 1 Psychic Relator and 1 Psychic Tracker. Very useful, just acting as extenders, so if you control a level 3 monster on board already, they can just be special summoned directly from the hand. And then going further into the level 3 toolbox, we've got our double Kagemusha Knight. So if this card is in hand and you summon out a level 3 monster, you can just special summon this from hand. Has to specifically be on a normal summon, but if you're normal summoning out Torn Scales, you can just easily special summon this out to the field. Nice and simple. Then we've got our 3 Tour Guide from the Underworld. I tend to more commonly use this for summoning Graf, just because you don't have to worry about Graf's effect to destroy itself if there's a Burning Abyss monster on the field, because its effects get negated, but then you still get the effect when it hits the graveyard when you use it for links. And then that's kind of it for the primary toolbox in terms of the level 3s, and then I will show you guys the one-ofs and the hand traps. So we've got our 1 Artifact Scythe. Play that face down or get it onto the field by the effect of Dagda, and essentially it says your opponent can't special summon from the extra deck, so really good card. And then moving on to the hand traps, so we've got our 3 Ash Blossom, need I say more, 2 Effect Veiler, and 2 DD Crow. This is what I thought would work based on just how the deck is kind of currently calibrated, but as I've kind of mentioned in the series, I think reevaluating the hand trap package here and basing it on the current meta is probably the best way to go. But that does it for the monsters, so we're now going to move on to the spells. I've got one Called by the Grave for the hand trap negation, one Harpy's Feather Duster for back row hate, one Phantom Knight's rank up magic force, which will make a bit more sense when you see the extra deck, reinforcement of the army to ultimately search the Torn Scales or the Kagamusha or any of the warriors we've got, Foolish Burial, usually used to get either Ancient Cloak or Torn Scales into the grave, 2 Emergency Teleport, which that's how we ultimately get our Psychic Tracker or Psychic Relator out. And then that's it for the spells, guys. So now we're going to move on to the traps. Now I've run very few traps in this deck, but we start off with our Phantom Knights of Shade Brigadine. So ultimately this can be summoned as a trap monster, but if you draw it, you can set it, and if you've got no traps in grave, you can just activate it in the same turn. Really useful card. Can be a bit situational at times, but I've just found there's always been a use for it for me. We've got Phantom Knight's Sword, which acts as a monster reborn if it's in the grave during either yours or your opponent's turn, which is really useful. But also you can target one monster on the field, have it gain 800 points, and then it also gets 1 destruction stop, basically. So really useful there. 2 copies of Fogblade. This card is just so good. Get to target 1 effect monster, negate its effects, and stop it from attacking. The contra is that it can't be attacked as well, but this deck has a lot of ways around that. Also, when this card is in grave, it's ultimately same effect as Phantom Knight's Sword. It's a monster reborn on either yours or your opponent's turn. And then to round it out, we've just got 2 copies of Solemn Strike. So great defense trap. I'd actually almost like to include another one in here, but that's it for the main deck, guys. So we're now going to move on to the extra deck. So going into the extra deck, we're going to start off with the Link monsters, and we've got our 2 copies of Cherubini. This card, as you'll have seen from the test hand, is basically the bread and butter for our initial combo. So useful for just getting Graph into the grave. It does get the attack booster off, but honestly that doesn't really matter. It sends to grave as a cost from what I understand, which to be honest is something I need to look more into to get a better understanding of generally. So even if Cherubini's effect is negated, you still get to send the card to grave. If I'm wrong about that, correct me in the comments. We're moving on. We've then got our Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardish. This card is awesome. Just getting to send a Phantom Knights monster from deck to grave, and then basically just getting to set a Fogblade for free. Well, not for free, obviously, it has a cost. But is so good, so useful to just search for the Fogblade. We've then got our IP Masquerena. Really useful for either our turn 1 or turn 2 plays, because we can ultimately just link someone using our monsters during our opponent's turn. Artifact Dagda for getting the Scythe out. I'm not saying any more on that one. And then our Access Code Talker, one of the big boss monsters that we have in this deck. So that's going to do it for the Link monsters, guys. And we're now going to go into the Xyz package. I don't run any synchros or fusion monsters in here. It is literally just Links and XYZs, but that's all I found I really need. So first up, we've got our 2 copies of Phantom Knight of Breaksword. This is a really key combo piece in our deck, particularly for going second or triggering off the OT gaze, because we can use that to destroy itself in another card, which will then facilitate the summoning of our Raider's Knight. The principal reason Raider's Knight is in here is literally just to get out the Ark Rebellion XYZ Dragon, which is basically our big boss monster OTK enabler. I love this card, just the fact that I can detach a unit, negate the effects of anything else on the field, and have it gain attack points. I've literally won games with my friends just by having this one card. It's absolutely insane. And then we've got some other XYZ cards in the form of our 2 Leviair the Sea Dragons. So this is just useful for getting recursion on the Phantom Knights that are banished, because you essentially detach 1 material and can target a level 4 or lower banish monster from the grave, from the Banish Zone and special summon it to the field. And the thing is, it's not once per turn based on what I've seen for other cards. So you can literally summon this, and then if you've got an extender out, you could potentially get another one out and do the same thing. So it's really cool in that regard. But that might be something I need to look into more, just to make sure I'm not screwing up the ruling on it. So then these next two are very situational and tend to be what I go in off of the Levi Airplay, which is our number F0 Utopic Future, which is literally just a catalyst for summoning our number F0 Utopic Draco Future. So the amount of times I actually get this out are very few and far between, but when I have got him out, he's been something of a game winner for me, just because he's very tough to get over with the fact that he can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, and I can essentially steal one of my opponent's monsters. Really good. I think that could potentially be useful in competitive play, but honestly, I don't see him that much at the moment, but I like to keep him in. And then finally, as with any Xyz package, I run Zeus. Need I really say any more on this? So it's Zeus. Why would you not run him if you're running a big Xyz package like this? So that does it for the extra deck, really, and that does it for the entirety of the deck. So like I said in the video, this is ultimately what I would deem as kind of the most competitively viable deck out of the three in its current state, but I still think there are ways to improve it. Based on kind of the deck profile, if there's any combos that anybody wants to suggest, or potentially any other development routes that people want to suggest, more than happy to hear about it. Just put it in the comments, because I'm really keen to sort of learn more what I can do here and how I can potentially upgrade them, because that will only just help my deck construction skills. So with that being said, we're going to wrap it up there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.